The conference is now being recorded.
So welcome everyone. This is Valerie Payne from the Wisconsin Technical College System, welcoming you to the fiscal year 2015-16 Grant Guidelines webinar. Today is session 3, where we will cover the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act grants webinar from 10:30 until noon. Just an overview for you. As you can see on the slide, we will be covering the following areas, content areas for the Perkins 4 grants. And as a reminder, the Perkins 4 grants are due to the system office to the grant email by January 16th of 2015. First off, we will begin with Perkins accountability.
Hi everybody, this is Julie. Couple things to let you know about the accountability is when you get your report cards this year, I'm redoing back to 2008 when this started because the new Perkins numbers do not match the old Perkins numbers, which you know has caused us issues these last year or so with the new system. And so in your guidelines, in the accountability section, even though those numbers aren't all redone back to the beginning, if you look at the year 8, and I know you're writing for 15-16, but this will give you an idea of what we have negotiated for the current year that we're in, and probably give us kind of an idea. We have not yet negotiated for 15-16. That's why they're not in here. But you can see that 1P1 we negotiated down a lot. So when you get your report cards, you'll see that reflected, just so that's kind of a heads up. And then basically nothing changes with the accountability. Everything's as it was. That's the only thing that you're going to see different within the guidelines. Then with the Perkins plan, same thing. If you're required to do an improvement plan, we'll let you know through that report card. And one change, though, is with QRP. Section 3 of the local plan is all to do with QRP. And because it was stated earlier this year that you no longer have to do QRP, that section is a little iffy. Some people have decided to continue doing QRP, some have not. But just to let you know, what it says in the guidelines here is you can let your Section 3 just kind of ride for the next, we'll give it up to 5 years. I don't think this Perkins plan will last for 5 years, but you don't have to make any changes to that unless you choose to. Like I said, some people still are doing QRP. In a year or so, we may have a new system online for you to work with. But for now, as things stand, you can just let that ride, and it gives directions about that in the local plan section of the guidelines.
Great. Did you take some?
Okay, somebody put it on hold. Mute, not hold, sorry. And then I'll just keep going because then I'll be done. Then with the, a couple of more things just to let you know is when you're looking for your cohort for Perkins, if you look in the Perkins portal and under Perkins measures, there's a look-ahead document. And so right now, if you pick 2014 cohort, which is the year that we just finished, that's going to be the cohort that will measure actually in 16. Because always think of the cohorts, if it started in 2013-14, so we'll look at them 2013-14, 14-15, 15-16, they get measured. So, and also know that if you pick 2015 and look at the cohort, it'll be growing throughout the year. So know that nothing current year is ever final till client closes next October. But if you want to kind of see where you are with that cohort, as things get reported to us and they meet the criteria, If they meet the criteria, they'll be added to your 2015 cohort, which will be measured in 17. So just, that's something, because some people really want to know where they are with their cohort. And then, again, you guys all know this, but all the Perkins reports now are in the portal. The workbook has actually been discontinued. We can't even get to it anymore. So that's just a heads up for you. And as soon as we get all the numbers, the Perkins report cards will be sent to you. We don't have the clearinghouse information there yet, so there's 3P1 isn't accurate, and so that's why you're not getting your report cards just yet. If you want to look at your numbers, they should be final except for 3P1. Does anybody have any questions about accountability or the plan?
Hi, Julie. This is Fox Valley. I'm looking at the Perkins indicators, 5P1 and 5P2, and it doesn't look like those two have been adjusted.
Because that's what we've negotiated. Are you looking in the accountability?
On page 14 and 15 in the guidelines?
Right. No, that's what's negotiated with the feds. Because and then 14 doesn't mean 14% doesn't mean that's what your college is going to be, but it took a 25 or 0.25% jump, and that's what will be reflected in your college. Because those really didn't change between the legacy reports and the new portals, and so that's the percentage of jump that will be probably reflected in your report card as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Anybody else before I go on to the grant? Okay. For the Strengthening Programs grant, basically things are the same. Just a couple reminders here. Remedial education is not allowed in Perkins. So just another reminder that you can't include that in your grant. No funding for food or beverages at all, zero. I went to a Perkins conference this year, and they really emphasized that, so I'm just letting you know. Then the only other thing is kind of some dates, and these dates have been similar in the past. In December, I need to, or by December 12th, I want to know just the things it says right here. I want to know the program name, number, that you want to work with in your Strengthening Programs grant, the Perkins indicators targeted, as well as the year if it's a multi-year plan. And the reason I want to know this is because I need to check through the portal. Basically, that's what I'm doing, is checking to see where your numbers are. Because the whole point with the Perkins money is to increase where those indicators are. And if the numbers for that indicator for that program are already fairly high, I may definitely question, because if they're already high, I don't know how much you'll get with putting more into that program. So that's the type of things I'm looking at. And then when the grant comes, I may also be looking at where within the program your strategies are targeting. So if it's a 2-year program and you're just really focusing on the first year, a lot of times those people never make it to the second year or to a time when they're going to actually be measured. So those are the types of things I'm looking at. And then January 12th, once you have my okay that, yep, this looks like a good program to work on, and really I'm not choosing your programs, I'm strictly looking at where the indicators for that program are when you request it. Then you also have to kind of run your idea past the education director. But it's still good to keep me in the loop, because I've already worked with Home College, and really what they're proposing I really couldn't approve. So it's good to kind of keep me in that loop as well, because I don't want you to write a grant and then you get to the end and I'm like, nope, can't do it. And you guys all have enough work to do, so that's just a good idea. If you're have a pre-idea, let me know, and we can all work together to make the process as easy and simple and quick as possible. Any questions about any of that? And the January 12th date is because I need all of our education directors to get that information before their grants are due that they have to read. So really be careful about that January date, because once their grants come in, your stuff is not priority. Their grants are priority, because we don't have a real long turnaround time here. And so that January date is really important, and that's the reason why. Any questions with any of that?
I have a question.
Okay.
Is the multi-year, is that still limited to 3 years?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Julia, it's Carla. So I just don't get we're getting approval from the ed director on the 12th, but the grants are due on the 16th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it has to be by then. It can be
before.
It can be any time before that, but that's just the drop dead last date, because then they get their grants.
Got it.
And so,
sorry. Thank
you probably won't wait that long, but
Right, but that's the last opportunity.
yeah. Anybody else?
Hi, I've got another question. Under funds available, item number 4, what is that trying to say? On page 50.
She's reading it. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, that basically is your appropriation for strengthening programs. What that says is, of all your Perkins money that comes to the college, 20% has to be spent on strengthening programs, and that's already when we tell you for Fox Valley this much has to be strengthening programs. That's what that's referring to.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right. Student success.
Good morning, everybody. This is Tom Heffron. First of all, as we did with the GPR webinar, thank you for all your efforts with the grants process and working it through with your district meetings and those kind of things. For student success, pages 41 to 45 in the guidelines for 2015-16. A couple things. There's no significant changes in the guidelines. These are ongoing projects. They are an allocation, not competitive. They're an allocation. One of the reasons that you're not hearing too many dramatic changes in the Perkins guidelines for 2015-16 is that there's no real serious reauthorization activities going on. There's some on the subcommittee level, but we'll see what happens in 2015 once Congress gets serious about reauthorizing legislation. As you know, that there's usually 3 different levels reauthorization. One with Congress and President Obama and the administration decide. Second is decisions at the state level. And the third is with decisions with the WTCS, with the President's Association, our administration, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, with Perkins Student Success, page 41, just a couple of reminders. The purpose of this area, which is usually one of your bigger areas of grant from the state office, again, its purpose of direct student support services for career and technical education students, including career pathway students. Also on page 41, a couple reminders there. Funds available, there's no significant changes there, but usually there's some district that asks the question about equipment. The only equipment you can purchase under this funding category is listed under number 9 on page 41. The only equipment that you can purchase, major or minor, is assistive technology for students with disabilities. That has not changed. On page 42, 2 reminders. One, number 13, we give you a list again of things that are not fundable, including no generation of FTEs in this grant. So just a reminder, because sometimes when there's new staff that you work with in your district or they new ideas, you want to check to make sure what could be fundable or not fundable. Karen and I and Julie, we usually do our conference calls, if you wish, upon a district request for technical assistance on that one. The other reminder on page 42 is that there is that paragraph that's in the box dealing with the 6-credit rule. 6 credits over the course of the academic year for career and technical education courses. So if you have any questions on that, this is the target group that you need to designate your services for. Just a couple reminders on page 42 and 43. The allowable activities, that has not changed at all. There's still 11. It's up to the district to decide how much and what services you're going to fund in this project. I can tell you that the top 5 that's been the last 20 years has been career guidance and counseling, case management, support services. Third one was disability services. Fourth was tutoring services. And at least 8 to 10 of your districts have taken number 11, direct payments for emergency. And again, we put down dependent care, not child care, because there were some questions about dependent care. So number you use funds for that. Also, if you do use number 11 and ask money in your budget and in your activities for number 11, emergency dependent care and transportation, make sure that you include the form that's your district process. A couple reminders on page 44. Under applicant component, you need to take the last 2 paragraphs of your statement of need, update the numbers that are in there because these are ongoing projects, and you should update the numbers based on what you did last year or what you did this first semester. A couple of other things. Just wanted to highlight a couple things on your chart, talking about money on page 92. Again, this is where your dollars come from. It's an allocation. Perkins money for your formula fund grants are based on the number of Pell, BIA recipient numbers that we get from your financial aid directors. Don't yell at them. They just are reporting the numbers that they send to us, usually in June, July. And then that triggers then your formula and the percentage of dollars that you get. The rest of the chart basically explains what you have to spend on the federal allocation money in each of the grant areas. The next fund is strictly a district decision of where you put those funds and what projects. Maintenance of effort, that's your local cash match. That has not changed for many, many years. And that is finally determined. We send you a final one right after July 1st once we find that out. But anyway, just on the funding side, just make sure that you go on that formula. And the dollars, again, for 2015-16, there are 16 technical colleges and 2 tribal colleges that are eligible recipients. The one last thing that I have is for these projects, including for this year's projects, but as well as for next year's, these projects can be revised at any time, budget activities or otherwise, since it's an allocation. Sometimes we get that question from the district, especially from new administrators or whatever. So these can be revised as we go along for the year. That's it for student success. Any questions? All good.
Okay, the next section, this is Karen Showers. Next section is the NTO section, or Assuring Access and Participation in Non-Traditional Occupations. There's 2 performance indicators, 5P1, 5P2, that all of Perkins funding that are affected by many of the things you do within Perkins funding. But this category is an allocation that specifically ensures that some Perkins funding is going to something that will support NTO enrollment and completion. The grant is organized, the activities are organized around the 2 basic outcomes, And the only slide I have up here really is to say that with these projects, we want to have a person identified so that we create a distribution list so that we're able to have a nice communication flow between our office and the colleges regarding resources and connecting NTO coordinators with each other and sharing information. So that is a requirement of the grant. And it's an allocation, but the activities that are listed are the ones that are fundable. And we really ask for very specific, measurable things as you describe those activities. It helps in triannual reporting. It helps at the end of year to see what you've accomplished. The funding amount for this category has not changed. One thing that probably should have been added to the funds available limitation after hearing the update and clarification that Julie referred to earlier is that no funds may not be used to support meals and hospitality consumable related expenses. So in the case where you would be doing something like a mentor-mentee luncheon, I'm understanding that to mean that the luncheon itself would not be fundable under Perkins, but other things would. So you might have to do some coordination of funds in order to have that kind of thing funded. So let me see. One other thing, about the only change in the guidelines itself was a hyperlink. We no longer have reports that are available that you can look at which programs are NTO for your college. But we provided a hyperlink to the portal, and there's a listing of the data access coordinators. And the data access coordinators can either give NTO coordinators this access or pull up this data regarding which programs are NTO at your college. And the definitions, lastly, there's definitions at the back of the guidelines, and there's a definition for NTO. This is based on occupations in the field. This is not based on what you observe in a classroom. So you will look at your criminal justice program, and it may look like there are more females than males in the program, but NTO is decided by the occupational area, and this is an occupational area that is NTO for females. That would be it. If you have any other questions, though, and if you feel free to send me an email, to give me a call, and we can talk about that in a one-on-one situation or during an NTO conference call. That's one of the calls scheduled this fall. Any other questions on NTO? Okay. Then next is high school, college.
Good morning, thanks for being on the webinar today. The first category that I'm going to go through is the high school to college transition. Really no changes in this category, just a couple of very brief reminders. This is the category where you can choose as a college to use your flex funds. And if you do use your flex funds in this particular category, the other kind of connected piece is that it must also support your existing career prep grant that your college has. So the career prep outcomes, there are 4 of them, and in the high school to college transition grant, you have to address 1 or more of the 4. So your work here has to support your career prep grant, and that's the same that it's always been. I would say the only other real change is that, like all the other categories, you'll be using triannual reporting, where in the past you've done the standard reporting and utilizing the forms. Everything is being switched over to triannual. So no real changes, same pieces moving forward. Questions on the high school to college before I move on to the related reserves? Okay, so the next category, and I'm just going to keep moving along and then I'll open it to Tom, is the reserve funds. And there are three grants within the 15-16 reserve, the Career Prep, the statewide program of study, and supporting student success, which is TOM. So I'm going to talk just about the two, the Career Prep and the statewide POS. Those are on page 28 to 40 of the Perkins guidelines. Again, no significant changes by any means. Just a reminder that the Career Prep is a formula plus a base grant, which you all know, so it's not competitive. All of the pieces in the guidelines are pretty self-explanatory. The outcomes are there. Like I mentioned, it's three or more of the four outcomes need to be addressed. And it's pretty much laid out for you, not a lot of, really no changes, again, other than reporting. Any questions on Career Prep before I move on to statewide POS? Okay. The next category then is the statewide program of study grant. As it's noted, it is an invitation-only grant, and that grant has already been extended to Fox Valley Technical College, and they are going to continue working on the wicareerpathways.org website. We have over 65,000 students in the state of Wisconsin that are utilizing that site, so we're allocating dollars to keep it going. All of the secondary schools this year to utilize and then to connect to the technical colleges. So no major changes there. I know many of you are very aware of that site, and if you're not necessarily aware of it from the grant side, your Career Prep coordinator is and has already provided the training to their consortium high schools. So no real changes, no real pieces to really bring up, but I will absolutely field questions. Okay. Anything else you want to add in this category, Tom? I mean, back to your anything else you thought? Okay. Okay. All right.
That's the veterans.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Reserve funds for veterans.
Oh.
That I have to talk about.
Oh, okay.
That next?
Right.
Great.
Just like everything else.
All right. The other part of reserve funds, as you know, is for veteran services. There's no significant changes in that. Again, if you look on the page, starts on page 29 actually, dealing with on the reserve funds. Total pot of money is $200,000. We normally select, or we have at least for this year, 4 technical colleges. It could be the same ones or some of them, or all of them, or none of them. But I will say, that leaves us open, doesn't it? On page 29, though, I will tell you that here's the data that we look at. On page 29, number 3, we look for the data that you submitted through your client reporting of the number of veterans currently enrolled in a CTE program and have completed 12 or more program courses with a grade of C, 2.0 or better. So what we're saying is that these funds are for direct student and support services for veterans that are already in your doors that hopefully just need some additional support to complete their programs. So that's what we're looking for. That's the data element that we look at. One of the questions that usually comes up from the districts is we look at just the veterans number. We do not look at the number of spouses or dependents of veterans like we do under the Wisconsin GI Bill. So this is strictly veterans that you are serving. On page 31 and 32, funds available, that has all been the same. The not allowables, that's the same as well. On page 35, we also have, again, the list of allowable activities. No changes there. Just for emphasis, this is, again, direct service to veteran services. And the last thing is that once we do select the 4 technical colleges, we normally have a conference call for technical assistance and go from there. Any questions on this part of the reserve funds?
When do you think that selection will take place, Tom?
Probably within the month. Within a month from now. How's that?
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, good. Oh, good. You're receptive. That's good. So, yeah, since client reporting is closed, we have the data, so we just have to look it over and make some decisions. We're also going to try to give the 4 districts that have the funds now at least a little bit of a chance this semester to kind of show some services, some activities, possibly some outcomes to see how we're doing even in the beginning of this year for this new reserve pot of money.
Could you share who are those 4 colleges that have these funds right now?
Sure. Madison, Milwaukee, Fox Valley, Western. Anything else? Any other questions? The district will do very nice.
You know what, I actually have something to add. This is Karen. I'm noticing in the allowable activities, we say that you can provide emergency transportation and or child care. We meant to say dependent care on that also. I just didn't catch it.
Criminal offenders, the last area. Page 61 and 62, just as you know, this is a set-aside for Department of Corrections. The set-aside is through actually our agency Perkins funds, not your allocation funds, so it's an agency decision. We strictly go with Department of Corrections as the applicant, but I can tell you that usually 2 or 3 times a year I get emails or inquiries from a county jail or from another institution or CBO asking, this is not available to them. It's strictly through Department of Corrections. It's $115,300. So it's basically partnership money with Department of Corrections with our agency. That's it for that one.
Okay. This is Valerie Payne from the system office again. Just wanted to put out there an opportunity to provide any responses to questions that you have at this time. As you'll see on the screen, there's a link for the grant contacts within the system office as well as the website. I did want to reiterate also that we do have SurveyMonkey for this webinar and the GPR webinar that is available and accessible through the calendar if you click on that link. Otherwise, we encourage everyone to participate in that at some point. Pertaining to
this is Julie again. I just want to give a heads up for Perkins because it's a little different than most other categories. The new tri-annual reporting, right now the last report is due August 15th, which doesn't coincide with client reporting closing. And for Perkins, you need client reporting data to know your final outcomes. So what we're going to do this year is there are 3 tri-annual reports due, and those are still going to be due at their current, at the times, due date.
Yeah.
I was going to say advertised. But the 3, so really what we're looking for in those tri-annual reports is, I think the first one goes till October something, but the first one, we're looking for what actually is happening in each of those 3 sections. And then on the last triennial report, there's also kind of an end-of-year wrap-up for the whole grant. And so we'll just say it this way. We're giving you an extension for that end-of-year wrap-up until November 15th, and that's again so that you have the client reporting data, the report cards. And just gave me, so November 15th of 15 is the first triennial report due, March 15th the second, August 15th the third, and now this will get confusing, but so then the next November your first triennial report will be due as well as the end of year wrap up for 14-15. And so That's how we're going to handle it this year. As we move forward to this a little bit, we'll see if that's how it stays. But we do know for Perkins, you can tell us what you did that third section of the triennial report, but you won't actually have data to give us your final outcomes. So that's how we're going to work with that this year. Any questions about that? Wow, you guys are easy today.
Woohoo! Yeah. All right. Just wanted to show you, if this works, where you can get that information. If you're familiar with the grants webpage, I'm just showing that on the screen as you can see right now. You will see calendar events. You can also go to the grants page here, find your guidelines, which you probably are aware of. Calendar events, if you go to today, you will see the login information, and then it should take you to the SurveyMonkey. So although it does say event registration, I can't change that on the system. However, it's a link that you can click on to participate in the SurveyMonkey to provide us at the system office with input pertaining to the GPR webinar that was held on October 8th, as well as today's webinar for October 15th. With that said, are there any additional questions?
Yes, I have one. One of the requirements of the application components is the cover letter. What do you expect to see in that?
So in general, for cover letters, we want to get an overview of what you're changing for or what is included for your grant applications. It doesn't have to be excessively long, but really to the point and precise. So what the grant name is and what's noted there under.
You would also want to include the category name and the grant number. So it's pretty simple and to the point. I'm thinking that your college has probably submitted in the past. There's got to be a sample, and you can work right off of that. No major changes would be needed.
So if you're submitting 3 different grants from 3 different funding sources like GPR, AFL, and Perkins, your cover letter, which you might you'd want perhaps one that lists
different dates.
No,
they're due on different dates, so they each have a cover letter.
Yes, different cover letters for each one, listing, like Ann and others had said, just the titles and the numbers, and the contact person was helpful as well.
Okay, so you need a cover letter or a transmittal letter just for each group, not for each grant?
Just for each group. So if it's GPR grants, all of those grants they're under that you're submitting.
So if your college is submitting a GPR grant in 2 different categories, on that due date, the cover letter would say, our college is submitting GPR category, here are the 3 grants we're submitting, career pathways,
core industry,
and new markets. Here is the contact person for each category, and here is the application number, that kind of thing. Just very brief to the point, and then you would do that for each of the categories that you're submitting because they're due on different dates.
But then Tom was saying, like for Perkins, because Perkins a lot of times, GPR grants are definitely different this year, but Perkins are often continuing, so if you have some changes, basically it's the same grant, but you change things, certain aspects of that grant, that's helpful in that cover letter as well for Perkins.
Yeah, your cover letters have actually improved over the years here. So you take your cover letter, you say, here are the changes I made for student success, the changes I made for strengthening programs in the different categories. You want to make sure that that cover letter is attached to each of the projects, so we don't have to make extra copies of that cover letter. But if you just do it by bullets, here's on this page, we changed this activity, or we change the budget pages, or we change the staff FTEs, you'll be fine. It's when we only see a 1 or 2 sentence cover letter that causes the problem. So since these are ongoing projects, if you just highlight the changes from this year to next year, I think you'll be fine.
No, we want new. We want new, actually.
No, I mean, you're doing the whole submitting the whole project, but you want to highlight the changes that you made
In the cover letter.
for this in the cover letter. Okay. Any questions on that?
No, that's good. I have to be honest, from the beginning, I was confused by a cover letter and a transmittal letter. So but that makes perfect sense.
Okay. No, we don't need both, just one. That'll serve both purposes.
Tom?
Yes.
Tom? It's
I'm
Linda
here.
from Waukesha.
Yes.
I just want to confirm with you that the success application, are you looking for a clean application, or are you looking for strikeouts and underlines?
No, we went to that a couple of years ago. So clean application. That's why that's why we're reemphasizing the importance of the cover letter, that you're telling us the changes from this year to next year. But it's a clean, complete grant.
Okay, so clean grant, no strikeouts and underlines. You just want the changes recapped in the letter.
Yeah. The one thing that I do still say for student success, when you get to your budget page, here's the existing approved 2014-15 budget. You got a column to the right. Here's the proposed 2015-16. Some people like that. I like it because it's pretty much ongoing project, like you've been doing.
Okay, and I want to bring up one other point. For grants, they want a clean, new copy. For your Perkins plan, I do not. Perkins plan gets, and it's all in the guidelines, but the Perkins plan gets emailed directly to me in a Word document, not PDF. And there I do want you, because it's too many changes often, so I do need the strikeout and the new, and whether you underline it, make it a color, whatever you want to do to set that aside. But the Perkins plan has different requirements in this area than the grants. Okay.
Anything else?
Julie?
Yeah.
We have a question. Could we use the track feature on Word instead of striking and underscoring so that you can accept or deny the changes?
You want me to run it down, sir?
I'll run it down. Okay. Hey, somebody who's got their phone not on mute, can someone please mute their phone so we can hear the questions?
Ta-da! I got 2 purses.
Okay, could you repeat the question, please?
No, I know the question. You want to use track changes instead of...
Can someone please mute your...
All right, can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. To the party people, who's asking me the question?
Hi, this is Sue Weiss at Moraine Park.
Okay, so, you know what? How about if just you try it this year? Because there's so much back and forth, I don't know how that's going to work. And so, why don't we use you as a test pilot and everybody else do it the way we've always done it? And if the track changes thing is not too much of a hassle and it's easier for you guys, I'm willing to go that route. But let me try it with one versus everybody in case it doesn't work very well. Is that okay?
Okay, that sounds great. That'll work well. Sure, thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations, Sue in Moraine Park.
Woohoo! She's the pilot.
Yeah.
Guinea pig.
Anybody else want to ask any other questions?
Yes, I have a question for Julie. When will we know if we have to do a Perkins plan?
Basically, Well, as soon as you get your report card. And you should get your report card sometime here in October. They're just waiting for the clearinghouse information, so I don't have the accurate number for retention transfer. And the other thing, I'm not quite 3/4 of the way through, because I know you guys know kind of the hassle with the new system is how you have to pull tons of reports. I'm doing 8 years of 7 indicators for 16 colleges. It takes a long time. And so, because what I'm actually redoing, looking back in the new system, actually it's more than 8 years, because I'm taking 5, 6, and 7, looking at that average to where with the new system you would have started, and then kind of going from there. So when you get this new report card, your numbers are going to look totally different from last year, the current one you have. And that's the reason why, is because for most of the indicators, there was a pretty major difference between your actuals compared to the actuals in the legacy system. And so that's what I'm doing for the report card that'll come out, and it'll still be this month. But that's why it's taking some time, is because I have to pull, some of the colleges have been, I'm pulling hundreds and hundreds of reports to redo your report cards. And so, but you still will have them sometime here in October.
I have one question.
Okay.
Will we be using the college plans that were approved for this fiscal year and just updating them, or is there a new format?
That's all. The local plan always works. When you're done, if I haven't sent you a clean final copy, let me know. Because normally what I do is once we're all done, I and you all agree on, the plan. When you get that approval letter, I normally send you, all right, here's the final copy. Everything is just it's like a clean copy. And so with the 15-16, you would take that clean copy and go from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions today? Any other on your...
Okay, Bill.
No other questions. With that, we will conclude today's webinar for the Perkins Grant Guidelines. The information will be posted onto the webpage, as you will see. And if there's any follow-up that you have, feel free to send them to my attention. We'll field those and put those in a Q&A that will be listed on the grant resources page as well. Thank you, everyone.